All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Eric Stewart from Fishing Fanatics, and I have an awesome guest today, Todd Auten, who is a current Bass Master Elite angler. He's been a professional fisherman for the last 30 years. So how you doing, Todd?
Doing good. Doing real good.
Yeah, man, it is good to have you here. 30 years is crazy long to be a professional fisherman, but I want to throw it all the way back to when you first got started in fishing. Before you were a tournament angler, how did you actually get started into fishing, and who kind of helped you get into it?
Well, of course, my dad always took me fishing, and he did the bait fishing, catfishing, and I'd always have a lure or something. I was casting around the bait, but this was the very beginning right there. But then, soon after that, my cousin, he got a bass boat, and, he knew I loved to fish, so he'd take me every, like, Saturday afternoon or so. We'd go down for a few hours, um, and I just fell in love with bass fishing. And after that, I joined some clubs and worked my way up the ranking with the Fish Federation. Um, and while I was still fishing Federation, I'd kind of branched off into the Bass Opens. And I think my last year in the Federation, I'd actually made the Classic through the Opens. So I was fishing the Federation, and I was going to my first Classic in 1999. So it's been a while back, but I just enjoyed fishing all my life, and just kept after it, and had to quit a little bit there while I was trying to chase around my wife, and got her. But we've been married as yesterday, like 36 years. So it's been a while.
Absolutely. I mean, 1999 was the year I was born. So that that is crazy. That was your first Classic appearance in 1999. How was that? What was that experience like?
I was a nervous wreck there. I can tell you that. With bass back then, everybody fished out of trains, and they put you in this boat you didn't know nothing about, and it runs 70 mile an hour, and I'm not used to all that, and you had different electronics and everything, and it was just like somebody wiped my slate clean and said, "Here, you got to start over at the Classic." So, and I fished it, and I can't even remember where I finished, but it was pretty far down there. It's like 45th out of 50 or something. But it was a learning experience, and I was just glad to be there, and I've done better since. The other Classics and stuff, but it's your first one is really nerve wracking. If you ain't never fished one, it's something different.
Definitely. And they just put you in a brand new boat down there?
Yeah, I mean, you got to practice in it, but back then, you had to show up with like 6 rods and a tackle box they furnished you, and anything you could put in that tackle box is what you got to bring. So it's a lot different than it is now, and if you broke a rod or reel, they'd let you exchange 1 or 2, but you didn't have but like 2 backups. So I don't know. They don't do it like that anymore, but I kind of miss that part of it. It kind of limits people, that makes them think a little more about it.
Yeah, there's a whole strategy side behind that where like you could only fill up this certain tackle box with these specific amounts of baits, and it's like, okay, you got to kind of pick and choose instead of just having 24 rods. I think fit in like a rod locker nowadays.
Yeah, I can get 60 in my
60.
Yeah,
But you definitely run a bigger boat than me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually out there with like 10 on each side of my deck, and 40 in the rod box until the tournament starts, and then I'll layer it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What was the electronics like back in 1999?
They wasn't near as good as what they are now, but I can remember running, and the graph wouldn't even read, because he was up so high on the plane and skimming across the water. And in a lot of places, we fished Louisiana Delta and out of Bayou Sonnet, and man, it's like a maze, out there. You can go to Bayou Black, or you can go all the way to Venice, and I tried to fish close some and a little bit further away to one side, but ended up, I went and practiced a little bit for it and everything, and I was in the right area actually where B.A.S.S won it. I was in there some in the tournament and practice, and I didn't put it together, but he did good and caught them all like it was one little intersection in there, and just waylaid everybody, But must be drive when I come back from practice, But it's a different deal for sure.
Yeah, I've talked to a few guys here that fish tidal water, either on the Delaware, some spots in the Chesapeake, different spots like that. But it's kind of crazy, like when they're doing the research and looking at different stuff and then figuring out what time they're actually going to launch for the tournament, how much kind of science goes into it, like where the fish are actually going to be stacked up.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if you fish a tidal water, that's totally different. And this was a little bit of tidal drop, but not much, But the fish know when it switches around. They know, and they won't bite until then usually. But and it's a lot harder, finding places that's good because you can be in the right spot and just waiting on the right tide, and it was a learning experience for me, to say the least.
Definitely. So, taking a look at your snapshot of your career, so you fished 187 B.A.S.S events dating back to 1996. So, taking a look over the past 26 years doing the different tournaments here, how have you been able to sustain such a long career in professional fishing?
Well, I always said to make a million at fishing, you got to start with two. So that's about it. Now, really, when I got into it, it seemed to be a lot easier. The technology and, we got videos, whatever out there nowadays. It seems like a lot of the guys coming along, they learn it real quick. And, starting out in high school, colleges, they got some good teachers and bringing these kids up real fast on the technical part of it, and you just got to be able to get to where your casting's good and you can endure the conditions. That's the other equation to it, because a lot of times we go places that's rough and you got to stand on the front of the boat and try to cast and this and that, but all that comes into play. Nowadays, it just seems like it's a little easier on the guys, I think, because, too, now they cancel tournaments on, windy days and stuff. To me, if it blows 25 or 30, they will cancel it. So, and for me, a power fisherman, that's what I want. I want the windy days and the bad weather. That's when they bite. So, a lot of things changed since then and now, for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you about the biggest changes that you've seen in fishing over the past 26 years. But first, I have to point out there, because you hit something kind of on the head that I've been talking to other elites and other open guys about, is like the wear and tear that it actually puts on your body to be on a boat and fish tournaments and fish practices and all that. Because I was just up at Lake Ontario and the waves there were crazy. And the first day out there on the lake, the next morning, my back was ruined. I was limping around. I grabbed a biscuit out of like the refrigerator and I went to the boat and I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm 24 years old. I don't know how these guys do this.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, one of the first, I'd say, rough tournaments I remember was going out of Clayton, New York, and we was fishing the St. Lawrence River, and it was a Bass Open, and me and Rick Morris draw with both boaters. So we took his boat. He's a lot more experienced than I was. And, man, it was so rough out there. And I just remember the next day, my ribs and stuff, my sides were hurting so bad. It was so rough. And really, when you're on the passenger side, it's a lot harder, I think, on your body because, you're just sitting there trying to hold all the different things. But, I mean, we went out and had a good day, caught some fish, and You know, the next day it was just had to go do it all over, but I had to do it in my boat the next day. So it wasn't quite as bad for me. I had something to hold on to.
That's that's the truth about up there. It's like you get banged around out there on Lake Ontario or like the St. Lawrence River. I was just up there and like you're thinking, is it worth it? And then you start catching these giant smallmouth and you're like, you're out there. You're like, okay, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of fun, and you know how it is. The wind blows up there, the fish bite. So we're That's at the final.
Absolutely. So over the past 26 years, there's one thing in my head that I would think you would answer this, with it being like live scope forward facing sonar is probably like the biggest change that a lot of people have seen. But is there anything else that's like a big change in bass fishing? I know you kind of hit on like the YouTube videos too and the information basically that's out there for fishing, but anything else?
Well, I mean, the mapping. I mean, really, the mapping, I'd say, has helped fishing more than, you know, the solar, because the mapping's so much more detailed now. And, you know, when I started out, it was a paper map. You had to get a paper map or a satellite photograph and, you know, try to figure out where to go and how to run. Now, you know, it's a lot simpler with the mapping, and, you know, you can put your depths in there and just let it eat now, you know. But I tell you, it's come a long way, the mapping, for sure. And I think, you know, people, when you're going out fishing and you can see the very tip of the point, you're going to go to the fish a lot quicker, and everybody gets on the same level then, I think, and you can find fish a lot quicker. Of course, they do too. And, you know, as the pressure gets to the fish then, and you just got to figure out how to catch them after all the pressure gets to them.
Business owners and marketing professionals in the Philly area, Bad Rhino takes the overwhelm out of digital marketing. With tailored digital marketing services, from social media management to SEO and PPC advertising, our expert team navigates the complexities of the digital ad space for your business. Let Bad Rhino lead you to success. Visit badrhinoinc.com and let's take your business to new heights. Bad Rhino, we do digital marketing, so you don't have to.
Do you feel like there's an increased pressure because like that mapping's so advanced? Do you think that like there's a far like increased pressure in these different lakes that we fish?
I think there is a lot of more pressure like that. And with the forward-facing sonars, I think, you know, the fish really don't have a safe place to be anymore. I mean, they'd be out in the middle of nowhere and just roaming around and catch one. You know, the crappie fishermen love it, you know, because they can just spot one and catch it on the cast. I know you've seen the videos of the guys doing it, but I've never really even tried to crappie fish with it. But the smallmouth fishing is phenomenal with the live scope, and the guys have brought it into the largemouth era and figured it out, you know, to a real good, you know, where they can picture what size fish it is and tell, you know, and chase that fish around a little bit until it bites. I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
and
that is fun.
it's something you couldn't do before, you know? You couldn't.
Yeah, you really couldn't. The live scope is a game changer. I just got one put on my boat. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned crappie, because that's how I learned how to use it, fishing for crappie. Because I wanted just something to bite around me in the Philadelphia area, and it's super pressured up here. So it's just like, I'm just going to downsize everything and just try to catch a couple crappie. Built the confidence up there, took the trip up to the St. Lawrence and absolutely crushed it up there. So, yeah, that forward-facing sonars, couldn't say much more about it. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get back up there. We headed up there Saturday, so I think practice starts Monday, so we can get out there and see if it works again like it does in the past. I'm sure it does. Well,
Yeah, I'm sure it's still dialed in there. So you do have an upcoming Elite Series event on Lake St. Clair, and that is one of your favorite lakes that I read on your bio to fish. So what are you thinking about heading into that tournament? Any strategies you're coming to, or are you looking at different maps and have a couple different locations you're looking at?
yeah, I've been looking, you know, a lot of Google Earth stuff and trying to look where where the currents may be hitting the banks and stuff like that, even out in the lake. They used to, we went there and would run to Erie, to try to catch the big fish. And now I don't think you need to leave St. Clair or, up towards Huron is usually pretty good. Some of the guys have a lot of success up there. But I think St. Clair, for me, I like it because you can fish shallow or you can fish deep a lot of times. Now, I don't think I've ever been there this time of year, but I think last time we were there, I was catching fish, 3 foot deep on spinnerbait. And, I wasn't catching with 18, 19 pounds, but it was fun. And then you could go out and fish deep and try to catch a couple big ones. But now I know it's a lot different. And, there's 25-pound bags weighed in a lot. So I might have to change my strategy a little bit, but I'm still going to have a little fun, too, while I'm there.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Fill up the bag, catch some fish there, and hopefully have a good showing there. And one tactic that you love, and you kind of mentioned it, is power fishing. And I'm super curious in what exactly that means for you, because I've heard it kind of get thrown around a little bit. Just want you to kind of explain it.
Well, for me, power fishing is just something you're throwing, repetitive cast, whether it's crankbait, spinnerbait, or chatterbait or whatever is like that, and target fishing, where you're fishing the edge of a grass line or cypress trees or something. I mean, to me, that's what I like to do. But, now that you got all the different views and stuff on the live scope, perspective mode and all, you can see these targets under the water. So it changes the game. And a lot of times, you're fishing stuff other guys ain't even thrown at in a long time. So just the average fisherman might not have this stuff, So you got to use every little tool to your advantage for sure.
Absolutely. And a cool story that I heard of you is actually with a guy named Brian New, who's on the Elite Series, who we interviewed a couple episodes back. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you first met Brian at a tackle shop at your local lake down there when he was 7 years old.
Yep.
Man, so tell me about that story.
Well, I met him in there, and, I'm like, who is this little kid who always wants me to take him fishing, Yeah. And I was like, I can't take him fishing. Something happened to you, your mom would kill me, but I think it was later in life we fished together. But I remember the first time or second time I met him, and he was always tapering with some baits and stuff. He had a spinnerbait, and I still have it. I should have brought it up here, but I didn't know I was going to talk about it. But it was a spinnerbait, had a 3-way swivel on the back with blades going off each side, and it said "Sure Catch" on the front of it, brand new. And I'd still give a heck about that. So I got to hang it up in my display room. But that was about the first time I met him. And, man, that boy, he evidently got some people taking fishing because he got good quick. And we fished some tournaments here. He good, won some of them. He's won a lot more stuff than I have, seems like, on the local level for sure. But he's... he come on strong, first one out of the gate, and won that elite. I was real proud of him. But, I told him, I said, beginner's luck. That's all I told him. I had to get one. It was a hard time.
Yeah, you got to, especially a local guy, too. It's good to see, local people supporting local people. And speaking of local, you got Lake Norman down there and Lake Wylie, too, those two bodies of water. Lake Norman, heard a lot about it. I know your home lake's Lake Wylie, so tell me a little bit about those two bodies of water.
Well, Lake Wylie, man, it used to be the best lake in North and South Carolina. It's right on the border. And, 25 pounds down here used to be hardly nothing to catch back in the day. And a lot of tournaments were 10 fish. Guys bring in 50, 60 pounds, and it's crazy. But over the years, it's gotten tougher, and the lake's changed. I think this biggest change is when the nuclear plant went in. It changed the routing of the water flow a lot. And a lot of places the fish used to set up deep here, which was one of the best deep lakes around because the fish would set up on all the points, and we caught them on big hot spots and crankbaits, and it was a lot of fun. But, over the years, the current flows slowed down and rerouted, and it's changed the whole lake. And now we have spotted bass in here. I think they've come down from Lake Norman, and they're kind of taking over, which some of the spots are finally getting to, a good size. And I think it'll be good all down the road a little bit. But right now it's going through a change as far as little limits, and largemouth is hard to catch here, period, right now. And Lake Norman, it kind of used to be like where you went up there and you just caught 14-inch largemouth everywhere. I mean, just millions of them in that lake. And now the people have put spots in there, and they put LYs and all this bait stuff. And the spots have really took off up there and gotten bigger. And, 16 to 20 pounds usually wins the tournament up there now. And that was unheard of back in the day when I fished. You caught 11 pounds, you was doing something. Well, but fishing has got a lot better up there, and I'm thinking it's going to turn around here on Lake Wylie pretty soon, and these bigger spots will start showing up.
That's awesome. So if, say in theory, someone was taking a trip down there in like the middle of summer, what would be some like tips that you have for them? Because it's going to be hot, right? It's going to be hot as anything down there. So like, what are some of the tips?
You can always catch some fish in the back of the creeks where you have a little current flow, but most of the fish are probably going to be deep still out on them points. And, I call it like a 101 Hopkins spoon is one of the best baits out here deep that I know of. You can fish and you cast it. You get up on these points and throw out, work it back up. And you can catch a lot of fish. You'll catch a lot of perch too. There's a lot of those in here. But if you just want to come down here and have fun and catch fish, that's the best thing to do. Yeah.
That's cool.
You might not win any tournaments, but, a lot of the bigger fish, I think, are around the docks and stuff. So you have to cast jigs up under there and do that. But it's a lot harder deal. And if you're just out here to have fun, out and deep's probably the best thing to do.
Cool. And then you have Auten Specialty Baits, right? That's your website, and I was checking it out a little bit. So tell me a little bit about that. I don't know. I think you guys have some custom wood baits on there and different stuff like that. But
yeah, it kind of all started with Waterwood Lure Company. They sponsored me, and I know the guy real good, Marcos Molicelli. He, started that company, and we hadn't fished a tournament on Lake Wylie, and he fished as a co-angler with me years and years ago, probably 16 years ago. And he just started this wood crankbaits lure company about 4.5 years ago, I'd say. And he's blossomed it into this awesome looking crankbaits that run great. And, everybody loves a wood bait, because everybody has these little cheap plastic baits, but I love my wood crankbaits, and I got the whole line of them from them, and now I'm selling, other guys' stuff. I got probably 4 or 5 guys' baits in my store now, and just give everybody a little variety. And guys in Texas, they want to try some of this stuff, and they got local guys here, that want to try their stuff. So it kind of gives opportunity for guys to shop around a little bit and find something what they want. And plus, if we find any kind of discontinued baits, I think we got some WeRs on there that's been out of date for a long time. But if we find them, we'll put them on there and try to, give people something to get, that's old and out of date and they still catch fish. But it's just a lot of fun, and that's something we do. We don't do it for the money for sure, because we ain't making money. But it's a lot of fun, and it keeps us all out of trouble here.
Absolutely, it is cool. So I'm a big member of like the swim bait kind of whole push from like Japan domestic market, and even guys in the U.S. making swim baits out of their garage and everything like that, out of wood, resin, and different stuff like that. So, I love the old-fashioned lures that I saw on your website too, and I advise anyone listening to go check them out, because it's really cool. Some of the stuff you can kind of get there.
Yep, this like I say, let's come check us out. And I don't know, we got like 4 or 5 pages of different stuff now, so that's big to us. When we had 4 or 5 items when we started, and we hadn't took a dime out of the company. We always reinvested in more lures and just keep putting it back in there, and we want it to grow, to where it can blossom into something good one day, hopefully.
Well, Todd, I appreciate you coming on here doing this podcast with me. So, 30-year professional career. What is your PB largemouth and PB smallmouth?
I'd say my best largemouth is a 10-pound, 11-ounce, and caught it here at Lake Wylie, 1999. I do remember December. Caught it on the spinnerbait. Forrest smallmouth, I do not know what my best is. I'd have to say about 5.5, I'd say, but I never really took one, to the scales that I thought was, 6 or 7 pounds. And I've caught them here and there and just said, what pulled it up, and it might be a 5, 6 pounder, who knows, but I just have to say about 5.5, and that's about the same on the spots. It's about 5.5, so hopefully I can break that record come next week.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. I would love to see that for sure. So cool, man. Real quick, where can people find you, follow along with your stories on like social media and all that?
Well, at Todd Auten Fishing, we have it on Facebook and Instagram and, Twitter, which I don't know. I stay on Facebook more than anything. Probably that's my best spot to get a hold of me if you will ask me a question or something. But that and, we have the Auten Specialty Baits web address too. You can contact me there too.
Awesome. I'll link them all down in the description. People go check you out. And Todd, again, thanks for jumping on this podcast with me, and good luck in your future events in the Elite Series.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
You just listened to the Fishing Fanatics podcast with your host, Eric Stewart. Feel free to check out our other podcasts and our other interviews on our channel on Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Check out our Instagram page, TikTok, and Facebook as well.